All right, I am at our pretty much final video in terms of stargazing and our journey around the sun. The camera keeps kind of stopping on me, but what we were saying in the last particular video is the right ascension numbers for seasonal constellations, and that's what I'm going to end um, our little unit of this with before we get to actually trying to recognize what those constellations look like. But what I'm going to do is go through again those seasonal constellations and circumpolar ones. And now, when you write those down, I want you to add the specific star names that are associated with some of them. Not all of them have a main or bright star, a significant star in them. But the ones that do, I want you to know, and I will list those. And I'm also going to have you look up, when you look up those stars, what their right ascensions are, just to kind of get an idea if, oh yeah, springtime ones, those are a little low. Wintertime ones, those might be a little high. Summertimes, whatever. And so, anywho, that's what this sheet o paper is all about here. But what I did was I took those same sheets that I described the names of the constellations for you, and I just kind of wrote them down here and have constellation and star names next to them. All right, but for this guy, what I want you to remember: circumpolar constellations. All right, Ursa Major, remember that is the big bear, and that is the one that has the Big Dipper as an asterism that is part of it, okay? And please remember the difference between a constellation, which is an accepted shape and region of the sky, compared to an asterism, which is simply an easily recognizable shape, okay? Ursa Minor is the Little Dipper. Please remember that. The significant star that is part of Ursa Minor is, in fact, Polaris, okay? That is, again, the North Star for what I had in the classroom here. It's what I put up there and wrote as the North Star, but that is part of what we ended up calling the Little Dipper, which the more technical term for that. Polaris, remember Draco or Draco, but Draco is a dragon. It's not a very significant constellation. It's just neat to know what it is. Cassiopeia is a very easily recognizable constellation. It is the one that kind of looks like a W-ish. And Cepheus is another circumpolar one, fairly dim. There is a star with that called Delta Cephei, but I wouldn't have you identify that star. I just want you to remember the name Delta Cephei, because something we will learn about a few chapters later is something called a Cepheid variable star. And it's based on a star in the constellation Cepheus. All right? In the spring, I want you to associate relatively low right ascensions with spring constellations. And so for the constellation Boötes, which is, again, is a weird pronunciation, but that's how it's pronounced, Boötes, there is a very bright and very significant star called Arcturus in the constellation Boötes. When you guys get to drawing that star or writing down that star, I want you to indicate what the right ascension is of Arcturus. And you'll see it'll be very similar to the right ascension to the star called Spica, which is part of the constellation Virgo, okay? So please associate Spica with Virgo, Arcturus with Boötes. Leo is a lion. This is a very easily recognizable constellation once you kind of get an idea of the shape of it. That is a very easy one to identify. And Regulus is the title or is the name of a bright star in the constellation Leo. So these three stars are the main ones that will want you to remember and associate with springtime. All right, when springtime shows up, you can look for these constellations. Libra also shows up a little bit in the springtime. The reason I put an asterisk next to that, please remember the significance of the star or of the constellation Libra. In the past several videos, I had shown you when it comes to the equinoxes, all right, where the sun is during either of those equinoxes and where the earth is during either of those equinoxes. So remember Libra and associate that with the equinoxes, okay? But remember, right ascensions, please indicate what those are for those 3 stars written in green. All right. The summertime constellations have what are called medium-low RAs. I just made that number up. But remember, right ascension goes from 0 to 24. And we kind of divvy it up into fourths because there are 4 seasons. So if you divide 24 by 4, you'll get 6. So from 0 to 6, then, or 0 to 5, if you want to say it that way, would be our springtime low right ascensions. These medium low right ascensions would go from 6 to 11, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All right, so those are the medium lows up to halfway across the sky. All right, a very, very easily recognizable constellation is Lyra, and a very, very bright star is Vega. So please remember Vega is in Lyra. Cygnus is a constellation that looks like a cross. They sometimes call it the Northern Cross, but it's kind of represents a swan. And Deneb is the star that I want you to associate with Cygnus. Okay, it means the foot of a swan. All right, a Deneb, and then Aquila kind of represents an eagle. Altair is the bright star in Aquila. All right. Lyra is like a lyre, a small little guitar type looking thing. So this is a very small constellation, but it has a very bright star. It's very easily recognizable. These 3 stars are very, very bright in the summer sky, and they're very easily identifiable. So there is an asterism associated with them, and that asterism is called the summer triangle. I mean, that's just what it is. So the summer triangle, again, it's not a constellation. It is an asterism. An asterism is an easily recognizable shape that may or may not be a constellation, but it's made up of stars from different constellations, actually. So please remember the 3 stars that make up the summer triangle: Vega, Deneb, and Altair. Okay? The other stars, other constellations, I'm sure you recognize the name Hercules. Ophiuchus, again, you probably don't recognize. It's just a very large, in terms of surface area on the sky, constellation, so people typically talk about it. And Scorpius, this one in the summer is a very easily recognizable constellation. Once you see it, you're like, wow, it does kind of ish look like a scorpion, just the way in the springtime when I told you about Leo and Regulus. That's a very easily recognizable count. Once you see it, you're like, wow, it does kind of look like a lion. But Scorpius does very much resemble a scorpion. There is a very bright red star kind of in the middle of Scorpius, and they call it the heart of the scorpion, but it is pronounced Antares. So please remember that, Antares with Scorpius. All right. Sagittarius is another one that shows a teapot asterism, and I should write that down. Teapot. All right. And that's an asterism. That's what makes Sagittarius a very recognizable constellation. It's very, very similar to Ursa Major, which you know has the Big Dipper as an asterism. So part of Ursa Major is the Big Dipper, which is just an asterism. That is just an easily recognizable shape. Part of it, all of the Big Dipper makes up Ursa Major, but not all of Ursa Major is made up of the Big Dipper. Okay? Polaris, Ursa Minor, is just nicknamed the Little Dipper. Okay, so that is an asterism that makes Ursa Major very easily recognizable. The teapot asterism is an asterism that makes Sagittarius very easily recognizable. All right, and then for this season, remember Capricorn, and I starred that because of the previous videos we made. Please remember the significance of Capricorn, where the Earth is, where the sun is, or what time of the year the Earth and the sun would be in the constellation Capricorn. And hopefully you know its relationship to the Tropic of Capricorn. All right. The fall ones then have what I would call the medium high right ascensions. Okay, so the ones that were in the summer, we went right ascensions, say from 6-ish to 12. So I'll say these. For the spring, the right ascensions would be maybe from 0 to 5. The summers would be maybe 6 to 10, or no, 6 to 11, sorry, 6 to 11. The medium high RAs might be from 12-ish to 17-ish. Okay, I'm just going 3/4 of a way around. All right. In the fall, we have some of the more interesting constellations. When you get to recognize Pegasus, you will be very impressed about it, and it will be one of the ones that you'll get very, very good at recognizing. All right. It's a very, very large constellation in the sky. But none of the stars are particularly super bright. None of them really jump out at you. But when you see it, you will never not be able to unsee it. So it's a neat one, and it's one that hopefully we'll get a chance to see this fall. Then Andromeda is a galaxy that is very closely associated with, or I'm sorry, is a constellation that is very closely associated with Pegasus. And then you also know Andromeda has a galaxy very, very closely associated with it. So it does have a galaxy. I wouldn't ask you to point where it is because it's not a star in terms of constellations, but please remember Andromeda has a galaxy associated with it. Many of these constellations do. In fact, every galaxy in the sky is part of a constellation. It's just this one happens to be the closest, and it's pretty easily findable. So I will go over that one. Now, Auriga has a very neat looking star. This star is, when you see it, oftentimes it's a very active star in terms of twinkling and shining, and sometimes it kind of looks like it changes colors a little bit. It's very neat to see the star Capella. So please associate Capella with Auriga. And Perseus. Perseus from Greek mythology, if you remember, is the one who was able to kill Medusa. And so he was able to cut her head off, but it was one of those where if you looked at her, you'd turn to stone. So he used a reflection to do it. And so he carries her head in his hands, and the bright star Algol is kind of representative of one of Medusa's eyes or her head or whatever, the part that Perseus is carrying. So it's a neat story to hear actually how all of these are related. And I put Pisces in there again, just because it's a pretty large constellation in the sky. It shares a median with Pegasus, or meridian. Sorry, it shares a meridian with Pegasus. So it's that, but it's a very, very dim constellation. You wouldn't really recognize it were it not part of the zodiac. And that's the same with Aries too. Please remember why asterisked Aries. There aren't any bright significant stars in Aries, but it is very significant in terms of its geometry and where it is located relative to the ecliptic and the celestial equator. So please remember what time of year the sun is in Aries, what time of year the earth is in Aries. All right. So those are the medium high right ascensions from 12 to 17. And then these are the higher right ascensions, and that would be what, 19-ish to 25 or 18 to 25. I'm sorry, 23. Jeepers are 24. It doesn't matter. I mean, 18 to 23.9, whatever. All right, so I'll go 18 to 24. Those higher right ascensions, but it wouldn't be 24. It'd be 23 hours, 60 minutes, and 59 seconds, or 59 minutes, 59 seconds, something along those lines. But winter has a very, very active sky also, because it's when in the northern hemisphere, it's a pretty calm atmosphere, so it's easy to do a lot of stargazing. But Orion is one of the largest constellations in the sky. It's one of the most easily recognizable, too. Once you see it, you will never not be able to not see it. There are two stars in Orion that are significant, and this has a very odd spelling, but it is pronounced Betelgeuse, just like the old movie in the 80s, Beetlejuice. Please remember Betelgeuse associated with Orion, and the star called Rigel. Associate that with Orion. So it has two stars that are significant to us. Canis Major and Canis Minor, the big and little dogs. All right, those are hunting dogs that accompany Orion, which I'm sure you know is a hunter. Canis Major has a very, very significant star as part of it, and that is the star Sirius. Whoops, I misspelled. There should be another I there. Sirius. Sirius. Just like the old radio, Sirius XM radio. All right. Um, it is, in terms of stars, the brightest one that is in the night sky, in the sky at night. The sun is the brightest star in the sky, but when the sun's not out, if you see the brightest star out there, it's going to be Sirius. Now, it's not the brightest object in the sky. The moon is brighter. Venus is brighter when it is out. And I think Jupiter is too. I don't remember. I'd have to double check it. But in terms of stars, Sirius is the brightest. Okay. And then Canis Minor, the little doggy, has a star called Procyon, which is a very significant star in the sky. So what you see here is a line going from Betelgeuse and Sirius and Procyon to this is the winter triangle. All right, and that is something else I want you to remember. Just like there was a summer triangle, there is also a winter triangle. These three stars, Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Procyon, they all form obviously a triangle. Very easy to recognize those three very bright stars in the winter sky, and they actually help you identify what all the other constellations are. Okay, so please remember that winter triangle, asterism. Taurus, the bull. All right, please realize Taurus is another one that's very, very easily recognizable. Once you see it, you'll never not see it. There is a bright orange star associated with Taurus. It is pronounced Aldebaran. Remember that word, please, Aldebaran. And it's kind of right there in the bull, one of the eyes of a bull. Okay, so Taurus has Aldebaran as part of it. Gemini, again, though, that's a star constellation that's very high in the sky in the wintertime. And it kind of follows, obviously, Taurus and those zodiac constellations. Gemini is one that represents twins. Those twin brothers are Castor and Pollux. So the two stars that are the twins, that is the namesake for Gemini, are those two. So please remember what Castor and Pollux are associated with Gemini. All right. And then the other one that I have asterisk from last time is Cancer. Now it's a very dim constellation, or any stars really associated with it, but it's a very, very significant one, again, geometrically, in terms of where it is located along the ecliptic line. Please know what time of year you can expect the Earth to be in Cancer, what time of the year you can expect the sun to be visible rising in the constellation Cancer, and how it's related to the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, so those constellations and those stars, please start making lists of those. maybe flashcards and remembering which ones are associated with which. Look up the right ascensions of them, the stars I listed, okay, and get an idea of what some of the right ascensions are for stars in the wintertime, stars in the fall, which again, there's only two, so not a big deal there. There's a few more in the summer. Springtime only has three. The circumpolar ones, I didn't have you do that. But you could look up the declinations, well, you probably already know the declination of Polaris, don't you? That would be neat for you to look up that declination, but you already know what it is, don't you? But anywho, with that, hopefully that gives you a little something to do while we're stargazing from home. But with that, yay physics and keep going, obviously. Yay school.